And that's because the only person or the only organization that is able or capable of fixing a product is the organization or person that created that product. Yeah, there's a fine lady over there. Looks really good to me, very attractive. Would like to talk to this young lady, get to talking to the young lady, having good conversations, right? And then as you get deeper into the relationship, then you start to kind of learn things about this person or see things about this person that didn't see at first, right? Maybe not as attractive to you anymore, and walked into an Audemars Piguet store, walked up to the counter and showed the individual this watch, said, hey man, I want you to take a look at this watch. It isn't like working for some reason. Can you fix this? Yo, this gentleman looked at me. I was like, sir, I'm gonna need you to leave this store right now. I'm gonna have you arrested. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of the Myles High Podcast. This is Myles Jr., your host. And as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right? So, got a great topic I want to discuss today, right? So we're just coming off of Valentine's Day, right? Valentine's week. All the lovers, everyone that celebrated, happy belated Valentine's to you. I trust everyone had a great time spending this so-called Valentine's Day. But my hope is that you're also extending that celebration to the rest of this year and every day with your wife, with your husband, with your significant other, because I feel like love should be celebrated on a consistent basis, right? So the topic I wanted to discuss today is incomplete by design, right? That's the topic, incomplete by design. And this topic kind of stemmed from just, our last conversation on the pod where we were discussing love and Valentine's in particular, right? And couples and just all of these things that come into play with relationships. And after, the episode, my wife and I were having some conversations, and I was reminded of our growth together, right? And, where I started initially with our relationship, actually where I started when I started dating, period. Right, when I was a much younger individual, and I just remembered something my dad had taught in one of his messages, and it had, we kind of get this this sense of like when we're looking for someone, when we're looking for someone to date, right? In particular, we try to find someone who has everything that we're looking for, right? Last year in one of my episodes, I discussed us putting this checklist together, right? And my recommendation was to chuck the checklist. So this is, I guess, a continuation even off that discussion. And just knowing that, first of all, well, here's where I want to start. I want to start with the greatest enemy to man, right? The greatest enemy to man is ignorance, right? Or a lack of knowledge, or to put another way, just a lack of understanding, right? That's our greatest enemy. With any area that we lack knowledge in, we can be coerced in that area of our lives because, we don't have enough information. We don't have the understanding or the comprehension of the knowledge to make the right decisions or do the things that we need to do. So to counter that, right, we should always be seeking information, especially in the areas where we lack the most knowledge or are most ignorant. We need knowledge and information for us to be successful in different areas of our lives, right? For us to be successful and be knowledgeable or show ourselves wise, right? We need to attain information. We need to gain an understanding of that information. And then we need to apply that information into whichever area of life or our profession that we need to, in order for us to show ourselves wise, and in order for us to be successful in that area, right? So our greatest enemy is a lack of knowledge. So in order for us to show ourselves knowledgeable, right, we should seek information. When we receive something, or when we purchase something, right, be it an electronic or be it some device that we're using, there's usually a little booklet or a sheet of paper that gives us the instructions about that particular device, right? It's better known as a manual, right? The manual is something that teaches us how to use said device, right? This device was created by a manufacturer, produced by an individual or an organization. And we spend our hard-earned dollars purchasing these items or these devices. And sometimes we don't read the manual, right? We think we know it all. We think everything that we need to know about this device, we already know. But a lot of the times we're using a small percentage of, or we're making use of a small percentage of, that device or that product. And the manual is very important when it comes to us really understanding and knowing or learning how to effectively and efficiently use the product, right? Now, when this product is broken, we don't go to Joe Blow on the corner. At least we may go to Joe Blow on the corner. And Joe Blow may say he's capable of fixing said device or said product. And you get it back and it may be working and may work for, a couple of days, a couple of hours or whatever. And then it kind of goes kaput, and that's because the only person or the only organization that is able or capable of fixing a product is the organization or person that created that product. Because that person has all of the knowledge needed or necessary for that product to, if it's broken, to be fixed. Right. It reminds me of, I had a vehicle back in the day, and this vehicle was giving me some problems. Couldn't really understand what the problems were. And it was it was actually my dad's car. And at one point it was giving us some issues, needed to get it fixed. And unfortunately there are no Jaguar authorized dealers in the Bahamas, right? But there are a lot of individuals who say they've been trained and are capable of repairing or servicing, these types of vehicles. So we was introduced to a certain individual, took the vehicle to them. They fixed the vehicle, or appeared to have fixed the vehicle, but the vehicle was still giving some issues. And it was just, it was like, man, I spent all this money already trying to fix this vehicle from this person who said that they were capable of fixing it, but it still wasn't working. So took it to another individual who was actually an authorized dealer for this vehicle, or a person that was authorized in dealing with these types of vehicles, right? He had all of his certifications and showed us the documents necessary to prove that he has been certified by the manufacturer themselves, right? Took the car to him, man, and what he showed me, I was just blown away, right? Because there was an issue with, I think, the water pump in the car, and the previous guy that fixed it, he rigged some type of mechanism where he duct taped one side and cut a hole in the other side and created this device that to him would work, right? Well, or would fix, I guess, the initial problem that we have, but it created so many other problems. And it caused other issues in other areas with the car that there were initially no issues, right? And, I was thinking about this topic and thinking about, being a person or having people when we have broken items or broken things, having people in place who are certified by the manufacturer to fix those items, right? Because if you go to a non-certified individual, they can not only make the problem that you have worse, right? But it can create other problems and other issues. Because, again, only the manufacturer of a product or a device is capable of fixing that device or repairing that device if that device is broken, because they understand every intricate aspect of that device and what it takes for that device to work. So why am I saying all of this, right? Because when we talk about relationships, I think we need to understand that, male and female relationships was created by God, right? It was sanctioned by God. It was blessed by God. So everything that we need to know about relationships, especially dealing with male and females, husband and wife, everything we need to know is in the manual, right? And our manual is, as I call it, the life book, right? It's the book that gives us all of the instructions, all of the laws, all of the principles that we need to learn. And, when we are met with these broken relationships or these broken marriages, and, we seek counsel from, these so-called therapists or, relationship coaches or whatever they are, and these individuals themselves aren't married or have been married multiple times or are themselves going through issues in their relationships, but there they are coaching you and helping you manage through the difficulties of your relationship. And to me, it's counterproductive, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? And I never understood, how couples would be okay with sitting down with an individual who either isn't married and you're talking to them about your marriage, or who has been married multiple times or is going through or has gone through, a relationship that was detrimental to them, to their families and whatnot, but they're coaching you and you're sitting there getting coached from them, especially individuals who don't share the same values as the life book that, I'm referencing right now. Again, because everything that we need to know is in the Bible. And there are a couple of things that I wanted to kind of dispel when it comes to relationships, right? Because, a lot of the times we ask ourselves, at least I used to ask myself, I'm sorry, let me not put this on anyone, right? I would always, when I was dating back in the day, before I got married, before I met my wife, and I might have asked this question as well, right? It's, is this the person for me, right? Or show me the person, God, that you have identified or have picked for me. And it would never, that prayer would never be answered, because the principle was wrong, right? God doesn't pick our partner. He doesn't pick the person that we spend or we would want to spend the rest of our life with. He doesn't pick the person that we want to get into a relationship with even. He just allows us to see and meet a lot of individuals, and through those individuals that we meet and that we're around and that we get to interact with and spend time with, we make our own decisions, right? And from those decisions is where we need to then consciously make the choice and the effort to make that relationship work. When we get into a relationship, it's not this fairy tale ending that, we've been traditioned to or conditioned to think or to want or to desire in a relationship, right? We watch these rom-com movies, romantic comedies, these fairy tales that we've grown up watching over the years, and we see this gentleman or this lady, and they meet another gentleman or another lady, and they have like a little turmoil in the beginning of the relationships or throughout the relationship, but at the end of the movie, like everything just works out and it just looks great, and the movie ends, and in your mind you're thinking, oh well, they've made it through that, they're good now, and the relationships is just smooth sailing from then. And that's not how it works at all, right? I think every season of a relationship, every phase of a relationship is met with some type of conflict, some type of trauma, some type of experience that we're going to have to go through in a relationship, right? And that's why it's important for us to really understand ourselves first, right, as an individual, and then understand the other individual that we're getting into a relationship. And then not just that person, but understand, the male and female and how we work, right? How we interact, what our needs are as individual, like me as a man, what are my needs, and my wife as a woman, what are her needs. All of these are things that we have to consider before getting into a relationship. And as a young individual, this is not something we're thinking about, right? We're just looking at, as a fine lady over there, looks really good to me, very attractive. Would like to talk to this young lady, get to talking to the young lady, having good conversations, right? Everything's going good, and you start to engage in what's I guess what we would call a relationship. And then as you get deeper into the relationship, then you start to kind of learn things about this person or see things about this person that you didn't see at first, right? Maybe not as attractive to you anymore, and you want to make some changes. Now, thankfully, at that stage, hopefully you haven't gotten married as yet and you're able to make some changes. But then if you have gotten married, that's another process we have to work through, right? Because I always think that everything in a relationship is salvageable, right? Regardless of if it's someone that we don't like. Obviously, there are aspects of relationships that when we talking about traumatic experiences like abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, other traumatic experiences that male and female relationships go through. Though I think those are kind of special cases that we deal with, but even those, God has worked miracles in a lot of relationships to where individuals have been able to make it through on the other end. But I'm talking about before even getting to that point, right? Why not learn about yourself as a male or a female, a man or a woman, and then learn about the opposite sex and what that individual desires and what their needs are, innately what their needs are. And the only way we can do that is by going to the manufacturer, right, and reading the manufacturer's mind, right, which is the manual. Because there are some individuals who pose as that they're this type of person. Like I used to do this when I was younger, right? I would create this persona of myself, of someone that I knew that I wasn't, but someone that I thought an individual who I was attracted to, who I wanted to get. I created this persona of an individual to please them, to appease them, right? So it was me being fake. It was me really not being who I was, being a counterfeit of the man that I am. And that doesn't bode well, right? Because, eventually, those counterfeit personalities or characteristics will come to light, and it won't be sustainable, right? It reminds me of, this time my dad received an Audemars Piguet watch, right? He had spoken somewhere, and there was an individual in the crowd, I guess, who was blessed by what he heard. And this individual, at the end of the service, came up to my dad and was like, "Man, I want to bless you with this watch or whatever, blah, blah, blah." My dad didn't know what the watch was, but he came home. He was traveling. He, got back to the Bahamas and showed me. He's like, "Yo, someone kind of gave me this watch or whatever." So I looked at the watch, saw that it was an AP, and I was like, "Yo, someone gave you this watch?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Why?" I was like, "Bro, this is a like super expensive watch." So I was like, "Someone just gave this to you?" And he was like, "Yeah, they were blessed." And this isn't anything out of the ordinary that my dad would experience, right? Because persons would have done this all the time. But I don't think it was never anything this expensive, at least not to date, not at that point, not to that point. So I looked at the watch. I was like, "Man, if someone gave you an AP, man, that person must have been really blessed by what you said." Because, my dad didn't know what Audemars Piguet was. But I, kind of explained to him the type of brand that it was and the value of the watches and whatnot. So, he kept the watch, started to wear the watch or whatever. And at some point, we had an issue with the watch, and he brought it to me. Or maybe I started to wear the watch. I think I started to wear the watch actually. I don't think I think it was a bit too big for him, if I could remember correctly. But either way, we had an issue with the watch. Something happened and something went wrong, right? So I was like, okay, let me take it to the manufacturers, right? Walked into an Audemars Piguet store, walked up to the counter and showed the individual this watch. Say, hey man, I want you to take a look at this watch. It isn't like working for some reason. Can you fix this? Yo, this gentleman looked at me. I was like, sir, I'm gonna need you to leave the store right now, or I'm gonna have you arrested. And I was like, oh, what is going on? He's like, this watch is a counterfeit watch, sir. We can't have you in the store with this watch, so we're gonna have to ask you to leave immediately. And yo, the look on his face and the intensity that he had, it was like, man, how dare you come into this store with this fake watch asking us to fix this, right? And like I got it, right? It took me back to the day my dad brought the watch home and showed it to me. I was like, yo, this watch could possibly be fake. But I didn't want to put that on anyone, right? I was like, yo, if someone is giving my dad a watch, it has to be a real watch or whatever. Turns out that the watch was fake, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just thankful that my dad wasn't the person that walked into the store with that watch. But nonetheless, right, the watch turned out to be a counterfeit, and was posing as like the real thing, right? But there's always something that happens where the counterfeits are brought to light. And again, the manufacturer would be the one to even call out the counterfeit, right? For us to really know who we are or who someone else is, going to the manufacturer and reading the manual and saying, well, this is how men should operate. This is how women should operate. And then you're looking at this individual and be like, man, this is a counterfeit. This isn't something that I want to hold value to, right? Or want to put my value next to. So for us to understand male and female relations, I want us to go to the manual, right? And just, I want to talk about one verse in particular, and then I want to just add some perspective onto it, right? There's one need of a man and one need of a woman that the manual tells us is most important, right? Jesus told men or told women, respect your husbands. And then they told men to love your wives. So innately that tells us that the number one need of a man is entirely different than the number one need of a woman. Women need love, right? God instructs us to love women. And that's because that's how he created them. He knows what they need. This is my creation. I'm telling you that a woman needs love. A woman doesn't care about respect. A woman doesn't care about you buying things for or catering to her in these different ways. But if it isn't expressed to her through love, it's not going to be accepted. And men, to counter that, doesn't really care about love. Like, men doesn't want to be loved. Being loved is good. Being loved is great. But the way we want that love to be expressed to us is through through us being shown respect. I think respect for men go much further than a woman loving a man. My wife telling me that she loves me wouldn't go as far as her telling me that she has a lot of respect for me. And that's because that's the way that we're made, right? So that's the most important need of a male and most important need of a female. A man needs to be respected and a woman needs to be loved. And I was thinking about putting these needs together, and I wanted to kind of give some additional needs for men and additional needs for women. So I'm going to start with the man. So in addition to being respected or being shown respect, a man needs sexual fulfillment. can't tell you the amount of conversations I've had with my dad, or the teachings that I've sat through, to where some men. Sorry, the teachings that I've sat through in like in a man's meeting, and there's a lot of men that were frustrated because their sexual drive made them feel like something was wrong with them, right? And they were sitting there talking to my dad, and I was like, man, am I broken? Like, is this normal? Like, I have this desire to have sex, and my wife may not share that same desire. So like, what do I do? And my dad was like, yo, look, that's completely normal because of the way that we have been created, the way that we were built. Like, we were built to create, right? The body parts that we have, the organs that we have, is built to produce, right? We are built to give seed as much as we can, as much as we want, and enjoy it while we're doing it, right? And that's just how we're built. So sexual fulfillment is a need for men, So sometimes women think that, man, all this guy wants is sex, sex, sex. He's want to have sex in the day, in the night, in the afternoon, like just sex all the time. And so to the ladies out there, your man is not broken, right? He is completely normal, working at exactly the way that he should be working. But at the same time, I think men need to understand that sexual drive isn't the same in most women, right? So the drive sexually that you have isn't the same drive that your wife may have, right? So there has to be some understanding there, right? And I guess this is to the wives for the most part, right? So knowing that your husband is driven very sexually and needs sex, doesn't really want sex, or doesn't only want sex, he needs it. There has to be an understanding there, and I think, again, knowing and understanding how the product of the man, the male product, was built, and what the makeup of the man is, and the desires are. Once you understand this, then once you see that being exuded through the man, and him saying, yo, we're ready to have sex. Can we have sex, please? Can we do sex today? Can we do sex again tomorrow? How about twice today? Like, that's not normal. I mean, sorry, that's not normal. That is normal.
You said it the right way.
That is absolutely normal. And I know my wife sitting over there burning to say something, because she and I have these conversations all the time, and I trying hard not to make it personal, but again, communication is key, and I think sexual fulfillment in men is something that is needed and that is highly desired for men. Another thing is recreational companionship. Right, so we need time to spend recreationally. Some women are able to do that. Some women aren't. Right, so men have like friends or acquaintances that we may hang with to get that desire or that need fulfilled. Thankfully, my wife is we enjoy the same recreational activities together. So I'm able to do the majority of it with her. Like, she loves sports, she loves to travel, she loves music, she loves entertainment, she loves food, so all of these recreational things that we're able to do, I'm happy with, because I'm able to do them with her. And again, this is something that I knew that I wanted or desired, and it was something that I've always looked for, when I thought about dating or getting into a relationship. So it was because I knew this about myself. I tried to see if, I could find someone that shared the same interests that I had in this capacity. And then again, number 3, the third thing men need is attraction, right? Now, attraction is a very relative thing, right? Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. What I'm attracted to as a man may not be what you're attracted to as a man. So every man's attraction is different, but there has to be something attractive, whether it's the physical, whether it's the mental, whatever it is, the emotional aspect from a female. There has to be some attraction that the man holds to the female or to the woman, and he needs that. That's a need of a man, right? And then the last two are domestic support. well, and again, respect. And from the domestic support, it's just, someone, my dad always give this analogy where, if you give this woman a seed, she's going to give you a baby. If you give this woman a house, she's going to make you a home. You give this woman eggs, she's going to make an omelet. All of these things that we as men are able to provide, and we're looking and desiring someone to multiply it, right? And to make it more, to be a domestic support for us, especially in the home when it comes to rearing our kids, and building a home that we all can enjoy. So those are the needs of a man. Switching to the woman, the needs of a woman. Again, outside of love, because a woman needs love. The next thing a woman needs is conversation. I'm sure a lot of my men out there can attest to this, the amount of conversations that women love to have. And I actually enjoy conversations with my wife. Sometimes it is be a lot, but again, because
don't do that.
It don't be a lot sometimes.
No.
They don't ever be a lot?
No, because how many times have people been around us and asking us if you guys are okay because you guys ain't talking?
Okay, that's always funny. That's always funny. Because Sharice and I could sit in complete silence and be completely comfortable in that silence. And people would look at it like, y'all body, are you guys okay? But again, conversation, my wife loves to converse. Like, she'll be reading something and she'll like tell me, and how my wife converses is very unique, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure a lot of you fellas may experience this with your wives as well. And some men too, because I have some male friends that do this as well. But half of the conversation, I'd say about 70% of the time, is in my wife's head. So she would say something to me, right? And I would be completely lost, completely clueless as to what is being discussed or what we're conversing about. And when I ask follow-up questions, she's looking at me like, why you can't keep up? Like, and I'm like, as she talks, I'd be like, well, you didn't say that part. Like, I didn't know what was being said. Right? Correct?
Right.
So,
keep up.
But I gotta keep up. But conversation, and because that's how I know, like, I understand that she wants conversation, and then I get a better understanding of how my wife converses. I'm able to adapt to these different conversations, right? Some conversations I don't even have to respond to. I just have to listen, right? Just be in air. And I can say, mm-hmm. Or I can say, what? I can just make sounds and it'll be fine. Other conversations I have to pay a little more attention to, because she's going to start being like, you hear what I say? And I'd be like, all right, let me put this down and say it again. So conversations are important, right? And I think as men, knowing that conversations is a need for women, I think it's something that we should and should always pay attention to, right? The next thing is honesty and openness, and this is a need of women, but I think it's a need in relationships themselves, right? We all need our spouse to be honest and need them to be open, and open whereas they're comfortable to discuss things, right? And honest. Open to be honest. Sorry, they're comfortable to be open and honest in different conversations, in different settings, in different aspects of the relationship. Honesty and openness is a necessity. The next thing is security, right? And this is financial security, physical security, just for your spouse or your wife to be secure in you, right? And you as the man of the home, the foundation of the home, her being able to know that, man, the bills are going to be paid, the family is going to be safe in every environment that we go through. So a man that is able to provide a sense of security for the woman is a need, right? And it's funny to me sometimes, right, where some women are viewed as like gold diggers, right? And those are like women that only go after men who for money, essentially. But I think, at the fundamental level of that search, that's just a desire that all women have, right? Some women just exploit it in areas sometimes where they can take advantage of it. But all women want to be in a relationship where, you know, the family and they are financially secure, where they're physically safe and they have a good roof over their bodies and are in a safe environment for the family to be raised. So security is a need, right? It's not, sometimes we look at, you know, women looking for financial security as a negative, right? And I guess never understood that. And I think that's just me knowing the need of a woman, right? And knowing that that's just a desire that most women have, and most men want to be financially secure too, right? And it's just where we are in our process and our journey of financial security. But just know that that's a desire. That doesn't have to be a negative thing. Again, some women exploit that and exaggerate that and take advantage of it. So I guess be cautious of those situations. But I think in communicating and talking through those desires that some of those women have, I think we'll get an understanding that, man, this is just a need that, you know, I want to be in a secured relationship, both financially and personally, physically. And then the last thing is commitment. You know, women just want to have and be in a committed relationship, committed to a man who is committed to them, right? A man who is always going to wake up and choose them, right? Regardless of how they look 10 years from now, how many kids they get, you know, the flaws that they come with in the relationship, just understanding that, man, I have someone that even with all of this baggage and luggage that I'm bringing into the relationship, we're going to be committed, right? I'm going to be committed to him and he's going to be committed to me. And again, this is just me talking about the understanding that we're never going to get someone that is complete, right? We're never going to get this finished product. We're never going to get an individual where there's no more work that needs to be done, right? In every relationship, the work always continues. In everything we do in life, right? The work always continues. There's always going to need to be a desire to learn and gain information, to gain an understanding, so that we can apply that knowledge into the situation, whether it be our relationships, whether it be our professional lives, whether it be our personal lives. But being able to apply that knowledge with the right understanding, it's going to show us wise in every aspect of it. And the things that we put our hands to are going to be successful, and the relationships that we get in are going to be successful because everyone is knowledgeable about where they are, who they are, and who they are dealing with, who they're in a relationship with. So we're all incomplete. We're all incomplete individuals by design. And I think when we come together, you know, and again, this is coming off of Valentine's Day last week, you know, all the lovers out there, again, happy Valentine's Day. But as we move beyond Valentine's Day, I want us to gain a consciousness of the needs of the other individual in the relationship and the needs of ourselves, right? Really understand who we are innately. There are certain things that we not only want, but we need as individuals. And I think as we continue to learn that information and understand that information, the better we are going to be in the relationships that we have. All right. So that's what I wanted to share today. Just, you know, just something from the heart that I wanted to kind of express and show the importance of, you know, when we're dealing with anything that we're dealing with, always go to the manual for the right instructions. Let's stop going to all these non-certified or non-authorized dealers, right? Let's take it to the area and the person or the organizations where these products and services were created for us. All right. So that brings us to the portion of the pod where I leave with you a milestone. And this milestone obviously is going to be, again, related to the topic that we discussed, relationships, right? And this milestone is simply: the beauty of a strong relationship lies in the consistent support, understanding, and love exchanged between two people. So just like everything else in life, a successful relationship is about consistency, right? Consistency in the support that we show, consistency in the understanding and the compromise that we have, and then the consistency in the exchange of love. And in the exchange of love, or the exchanges of love, knowing how to love that individual, right? I think each of us should know by now that we all express and receive love differently, right? There's 5 love languages, and we need to understand what my love languages is and what our significant other or what my wife love language is. And I think, once we're able to do that and be consistent in showing that support and showing that that love to the individual, our relationships are going to flourish, right? And going to be super successful. So I just wanted to leave that with you. Consistency is key in everything that we do. All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end of another pod. As always, thank you guys for sticking and staying with me. I hope that this pod was enlightening to you and gave you a bit more information and made you curious to want to go and search for more information in the manual, the Book of Life, as I refer to it. All right, but as you know, on this pod, the goal is always to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, until next time, you guys stay blessed.
Like 40 minutes.